Sorry.
Good evening and welcome. This is a regular meeting of the Princeton Planning Board on Thursday, June 20th, 2024. Pursuant to Section 13 of the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of the time and place of this meeting has been given by prominently posting the resolution of regularly scheduled meetings of the Planning Board of Princeton for February 2024 through January 2025. A copy was filed with the Clerk of Princeton on January 8th, 2024. Legal notice on the adoption of said resolution was published in the January 12th, 2024 edition of the Princeton Packet. Notice of this meeting also has been posted to the municipal website, princetonnj.gov/calendar. Notice that all regular and special meetings of the Princeton Planning Board will be held electronically via Zoom, was transmitted to the Princeton Packet and the Times, and was filed with the Clerk of Princeton on Tuesday, January 17th, 2023. Please note this meeting is being recorded. Since I think I'm going to read the whole thing regardless. During hearings on applications for development, members of the public will have an opportunity to comment and ask questions. Questions may be asked after an applicant's witnesses have testified. Public comment is heard by the board after an applicant's representatives have finished their presentations and have been questioned by board members and staff. Those wishing to comment orally should virtually raise your hand by clicking on the reactions button or the raise hand icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen, or if participating by phone, by pressing *9. Oral comments will be taken in the order in which hands were raised. We ask with respect that members of the public express your views in 3 minutes or less. Countdown clock will be used to help speakers keep track of time, and speakers who exceed 3 minutes will be interrupted. Inappropriate public comment containing obscenity, hate speech, or relating to matters not before the board will be muted. Carrie, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Mr. Gottheimer, Ms. Capizzoli,
Here.
Mr. Cohen,
Here.
Mr. McGowan,
Here.
Ms. Nuka,
Here.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Here.
Ms. Perlmutter,
Here.
Ms. Sachs,
Here.
Mr. Taylor, Ms. Wilson Anderson,
Here.
Mrs. Wilson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
So Mr. Taylor was here.
I'm sorry, was I?
Okay, good.
Oh, good. Oh, hi, Jack.
I thought
Thank you.
I thought I was beyond that. I should.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Announcements. Justin, could you just give us a quick heads up about the IO Dele matter later on the agenda?
Sure. So and good evening, members of the board and members of the public. There's an application scheduled tonight, continued from a previous meeting at 469 Ewing Street. That application will not be heard tonight on the revised files that we received on June 7th. There was just some missing information, so staff was not able to thoroughly review it in a way that we were prepared to bring it to the board. I expect it'll be carried to a date certain at 7:30, or whenever we get to it. For members of the public that do want to stick around and find when that date is. If you don't, it will be on future municipal calendars, like all our agendas are. But that case will not be heard tonight.
Okay, thank you. Other announcements, Justin, or from any members of the board or staff? Okay, seeing none. Subcommittee reports. I believe we have a site plan committee report. Is that correct?
Yes, but I'm not completely prepared. I'm sorry, Louise. So we
I'm
heard.
sorry. I hope that didn't mean to sandbag you or anything.
No, totally my fault. We had a meeting a couple weeks ago. We heard 3 applications, I believe, and passed. Justin, can you help me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So there were three applications, minor site plan applications heard by the site plan committee on June 4th. One was 112, 114, and 116 Prospect Avenue. That was classified as a minor site plan, and you will hear that on Tuesday at the special meeting. Similarly, there was another minor site plan application with variances, as the Prospect Avenue one was, at 299 Witherspoon Street. That was also classified as minor, and the board will hear that in the future. And then the third application was for the Quantum Institute geothermal boreholes. It was classified as minor and recommended for approval. That one did not have any variances associated with it. So notice, I believe, already went out to the neighbors and in the newspaper, where anyone could provide a written objection to have the application heard by the board. We have not heard anything yet. I don't have the exact dates on me when it was published, if it was published yet.
I did not hear from the attorney that it was published, so I'm waiting on that.
Okay, yep. So we're still waiting to hear on that one. But if it did go the 10 days notice without hearing any written objections, it would be given the full status of an approved minor site plan.
Okay. I think that was the only subcommittee reports. There hasn't been it's a landscape committee meeting coming up, but okay. Let's move on to findings of fact. The first of three relates to 21 Wiggins LLC. This is an extension of vested rights for site plan approval at 21 Wiggins Street, file number P 2321-030P. It's a very brief finding of fact. Anybody have questions or suggested edits, or would someone like to move it?
I'll move.
Moved by Mr. O'Donnell, seconded by Mr. McGowan. Thank you both. Roll call, please.
Okay, I'm
Carrie,
sorry, I was on mute. Ms.
Yeah.
Capizoli,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Ms. Nuka, Ms.
I
Nuka,
saw her lips move, but Pallavi, you're
I
on.
need to hear you.
Yes, sorry.
Thank you. Mr. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Ms. Perlmutter,
Yes.
Ms. Sachs,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
and Mrs. Wilson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just curious if there's a reason that I wasn't called.
You were absent that day.
Okay,
I checked the minutes. You were absent that day.
okay, thanks.
The next findings of fact is Princeton Academy of the Sacred Heart. This was a preliminary and final major subdivision and minor site plan at Great Road and Drake's Corner Road. This is file number 2323-417 SPF/PM.
I
Any
moved to
question? Thanks. Julie moves it. Julie Capizoli, is there a second?
Second.
Thanks,
Jack, you
Jack.
were not present.
Okay.
I'll
David raised his hand too.
Thank you.
Yeah, you were away, Jack. Moved by Julie Capizoli, seconded by David Cohen. Roll call, please, Carrie.
Ms. Capizoli,
Yes.
Mr. Cohen,
Yes,
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Ms. Nuka,
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Ms. Perlmutter,
Yes.
Ms. Sachs,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson.
Yes,
Motion carried. Thank you.
thanks. And the third resolution is for RB Homes LLC. This is preliminary and final major site plan with variances at 375 and 377 Terhune Road. This is file number P 2323-309P.
And after this was circulated, there was further discussion at the staff level. And in condition 15D7, and condition 15E, we have a reference to the municipal housing liaison as being responsible for affirmative marketing, et cetera, and realize that the housing liaison doesn't do that. So we substituted, and I sent out a letter to everybody on this, for in both of those conditions, substituted for municipal housing liaison, administrative entity designated by the municipality.
Okay. Good. With that edit, is there a motion?
I'll move it.
Moved by Mr. Cohen, seconded by Ms. Sachs. Carrie, would you call the roll, please?
Ms.
For a roll call
Capizoli,
vote.
Ms.
Yes.
Capizoli,
Yes.
Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Ms. Perlmutter,
Yes.
Ms. Sachs,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson.
Yes,
Motion carried. Thank you.
thank you. And next up, we have an ordinance referral. This is ordinance 2024-27. It's an amendment to the Green Development Checklist and Information Statement. It's been a long time in development and is really a good step forward. Justin, do you want to say anything about this? I know you've worked on it and probably you have too, Freddie. So if you want to say anything, you're welcome to after Justin.
Yep, sure. So I'm happy to summarize my memo to the board if you'd like.
Okay.
Briefly, council has referred ordinance 2024-27 to the board for a master plan consistency review. This memo was dated May 31st. It was included in the packet to the planning board members and online. But just briefly, this ordinance includes changes to the green development checklist, which is sometimes called the green building checklist. It's one and the same, which is a required part of the application for development forms that applicants fill out for major site plan approval and preliminary major subdivision approval. Updating this checklist has been a longstanding goal of the Princeton Environmental Commission, and I thank them for their persistence in keeping this a goal, as well as all the work that they did to get it to this point. Staff has been meeting with members of the PEC since last year to discuss these revisions, and there have been at least 12 revised documents to get us to this point. The major changes are to the questions themselves to reflect changes in state law and municipal ordinance that might not be necessary anymore or might allow us to go further in what we ask the applicants, and just to generally refine the questions to get better answers so the board can make better decisions, and that leads to better outcomes for the community. Notably, each question would now be phrased to become one straightforward yes or no prompt. If the answer is yes, the applicant is asked to state how the question will be accomplished. If the answer is no, the applicant is asked why they're not doing it. And there are 31 overall questions. So as you see in my memo, in terms of the master plan, the vision laid out by the community in that plan states that Princeton will be livable, beautiful, healthy, and accessible, and sustainable, resilient, and carbon neutral. Applicable goals of the land use element of the master plan include streamlining our review process, while also improving resiliency to climate change and natural hazards. This checklist is already a tool to accomplish these goals, and these revisions help to result in better development applications. Thus, I believe that this ordinance referred to the board is very consistent with the Princeton master plan. And I'm happy to take any questions. I know Mr. Weissman, Dan is here as well. He worked pretty hard on this too, probably harder than me. So give him the credit and give the PEC the credit. I just get to stand up here and tell you about it. So.
Thank you, Justin. And thank you, Freddie, for any work that you've done on it over the years yourselves. Anything to add?
No, actually, that's just about what I think that Justin gave a very good summary of it and what we're trying to accomplish and the changes that have been made. But I just wanted to second that the PEC has worked very hard on this for a long time, and it's very important to the PEC.
Yeah.
And to the community, we believe.
Yeah, I think it's a big improvement. David?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. I believe that the last time this was reviewed, or when it was originally created, we did not have a green building and environmental sustainability element of the master plan. So clearly, I think the detailed recommendations in that green building element are very much reflected. And so, you know, it's not that different than it was before, but I guess the master plan is now consistent with the green building checklist. Would be another way to look at it.
Yeah. And I think it does add clarity. And I think that's always a good thing. Any other comments? Or would someone, and if there are no other comments, would someone like to make a motion finding this ordinance consistent with the master plan?
So moved.
That's a motion. I'll second it.
Thank you. Moved by Freddie Perlmutter, seconded by Mia Sachs. Could we have a roll call vote, please, Carrie?
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
you might want to open it to public comment. We've done that in the past. We don't have to do that for ordinance referrals. It's up to you.
Okay. If there are members of the public, I see there are 9 people in attendance. If anyone would like to speak to this ordinance that's been introduced, and that the board is ready to vote to commend to council, it been introduced by council, I mean, and not yet adopted by council. Now is the time to do it. So if you would like to comment, please virtually raise your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen. I'm not seeing anybody do that. So I will close the public comment portion of the meeting and call for the vote.
Yes. Thank you.
You're up, Carrie.
I was typing away. Ms. Capizoli,
Yes.
Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Ms. Nuka,
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Ms. Perlmutter,
Yes.
Ms. Sachs,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
and Mrs. Wilson.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thanks again, Justin, for raising that about public comment. Next on the agenda, we have an application, which, as Mr. Lesko said earlier, will be carried. This is the Moraquino and Marlon Ayodele minor subdivision and site plan with variances at 469 Ewing Street, block 7202, lot 13. This is file number 2322-255 MS/PM. And I guess I would turn things over to Justin and Carrie and Mr. Kennedy on behalf of the applicant to talk about what date certain makes sense, whether the applicant can be ready in time for our professionals to do revised memos and us to hear it in July, or whether we're looking at September.
And just to advise the board, jurisdiction had been previously taken in this and carried to this date. So the board does have jurisdiction.
Thanks, Jerry. Should have done that first. Appreciate that.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Ryan Kennedy for the applicant. We have our team has reviewed the comments that we got late Tuesday from staff, and believe we've both can address them and may already have in documents we've turned around in the last day or so on our side. So we believe we'll have them next week, which our belief is from talking with Mr. Lesko and Mr. Bridger that would be enough time for them to review in time for the July 11th meeting, which I believe is the next one that might be available.
Okay, does that sound right to you, Justin?
Sounds right to me, as long as we get those documents in time to do so.
Okay, and just looking real quickly at July 11th to make sure we're not overbooking ourselves. That.
Yeah, we have
Okay,
299
there's
Witherspoon
one
and that's
other
it.
thing. Yeah, you're right. We just, yeah, there's one other application that night. Will the other application, from which I am recused because, the applicant is my neighbor? Will that be heard first or will Iodeli be heard first?
I think we should schedule that first since they've been waiting for months to be scheduled.
Okay. All right, just wanted that clarity for the board. So July 11th, Mr. Mueller, could you speak to the no
Yes.
further notice question?
Yeah, it's just indicated it's been carried to that date, July 11th. There will not be any further notice.
Okay. So for the 9 people attending, this application, as you've heard, is carried to July 11th. We'll hear one other application before we take up this application again. And that's it.
Nope, thank you.
Justin, were you about to say something? No.
Nope, wasn't me.
It's
David.
your shining moment.
Yes, would you, Madam Chair, entertain a motion to adjourn?
I would with pleasure. Is there a second? Thank you. Thank you, Council President Sachs. All in favor, please say
Aye.
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 Thanks, everybody. Please try to stay cool. It is so hot out there.
Mhm.
And thanks, Dan Weissman, for your work on the ordinance. Great job.
Thank you. All credit really should go to PEC, but thank you.
Thanks to PEC as well. They really carried water on this. Thanks so much. Good night.
Good night.
Right.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.